Thank you so much for being here for an hour to give. I'm Sam Laprade. We're going to get to know many different organizations over the next coming weeks. It is my pleasure to introduce you to organizations maybe that you haven't heard of. We're going to be talking about volunteerism, community, and of course, philanthropy. And I can't think of a better organization than Perley Health. And I am so excited today to welcome our very first guest, Laird Eddy. Hi, Laird.
Hi, Sam.
So we're just going to tell everybody right off the start, we're deep and long friends, and we've been friends for a very, very long time. And this opportunity today to talk about an organization that means so much to you means a great deal to me. So thank you.
Yes, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, it's
Glad
great
to be here.
It's great. So Perley Health, when we think about Perley Health, many people have heard maybe their grandparents went there, or it's an organization that's been around for many, many years, lots of different programs that happen there, but you have a very different perspective. And the perspective you're coming at is a loving husband to the beautiful Diane Morrison, who of course, a very well-known name in this community. Tell us a little bit about Diane.
Well, Diane ran the Ottawa mission for 25 years. Before that, she was a school teacher. And I worked at the mission with her for those 25 years, and we had a great time there. But as the end of those years came along, unfortunately, she developed Alzheimer's. And so that unfortunately ended her career at the mission at that time. And I stayed on for another couple of years, but I needed to go home and look after her at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a caregiver, I mean, because of our friendship over the years, I know how challenging that was for you, Laird. And as a caregiver, it was also hard, I'm assuming, to be a husband, caregiver and husband at the same time. What was that like?
It was tough. You know, to see this beautiful and vibrant lady who had done so much for the community slowly lose herself to the fog of Alzheimer's was devastating, I can tell you. And I looked after her for 7 years at home as she journeyed down that road. And it was difficult because there would be moments that I had to learn how to care for someone with her condition. And so there were some real learning experiences, and some were tough and some were funny. And and
sure.
I'm not sure how funny you want to get, but but you know, there are moments, of course, when people with that illness, they tend to want to escape out of the house. And so during those years, I didn't get much sleep because, of course, the moment she moved, I had to make sure that she wasn't running off somewhere. And then one night, I was so exhausted that I did fall asleep. And she did get out of the house, and it was in late January, and it was one of those minus 30 Celsius degree nights. And I woke up in a start and realized she wasn't there, and I ran through the house looking for her. She wasn't there. So I ran out onto the street, and she was fortunately not too far, and I went and brought her home. But all the while I was bringing her home, this was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and all the while I was bringing her home, I was praying that none of my neighbors were out there with their iPhone cameras because I hadn't really gotten dressed. I was still in my own.
No. But you know what?
I could see a YouTube moment.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see the humor in it. But but I know how challenging it was for you. And I remember a day, I know exactly where I was. I don't remember the date, but I know exactly where I was when you phoned me and you said, Sam, Diane is going to Perley Health.
Yes.
And the relief, Laird, that you had in that moment, because I've been with you through all of this, I'll never forget it. it was a lifeline for you, Laird.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, because near the end of my caring for her of those 7 years, it had reached a point where it was dangerous for her to be at home. There was a danger of her falling down the stairs, and there were a danger of falls, and so I knew that the time had come when I could no longer care for her at home. And so that is a very difficult moment, because then you're taking, in my case, I was taking the person I love most in life and having to entrust that person to someone else's care. And personally, I just felt that no one would care for her like I would, obviously. And so I put that moment off as long as I could. But it reached the point where I was so exhausted that I had to do that, and it was dangerous for her just to be at home. So I let them know that, the time had come when she needed to go, and they asked me, okay, there's a room vacant at the Perley. I said I wouldn't have really agreed to anywhere else, because I had known the Perley and known what such good work they do. So that's how that came about.
And I think too, when we think about the Perley, because it's got such a beautiful long history in this community, but it doesn't mean they haven't been innovative, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't feel like home.
Right.
They took me on a tour. I still talk about this tour. They took me on a tour, and I was amazed at how beautiful it was, how beautifully set up it was to feel like home.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about the moment when I actually took Diane there for her to stay, because that was, I think, one of the most difficult moments in my life. And it is probably for anybody who has to bring a loved one to a long-term care home. Because I know that we, as the folks out there in the community, turn on our televisions and see all these stories about long-term care homes, and oh my God, am I bringing my loved one to such a place? But I knew the Perley wasn't that. Was an excellent place, but it was still scary to bring someone I love so much and hand them over to people to care for her. And they were great right off the bat. I mean, they reassured me. They helped me to understand what was happening all along every step, and so that I went home that night, and I was very upset, because it was the first time in all those years that we had been married that we had been separated, because you remember, we were married, we lived together, we worked together, we were never separated.
Right, I remember.
And so, so that first night was so nightmarish for me, because it's the first time we'd been separated, and there she was in the hands of somebody else who was caring for her. But the one thing that I had that night was the confidence that she was being well cared for, because I had met the people who were going to care for her when I went there, and I had, they gave me a tour of the organization, and so I had confidence that she was going to be okay, So.
And there's no money that can buy that feeling.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here I would like to share with you something that I have since clarified in my own mind. And I said, what was that moment that, made the difference for me? It was the moment where I realized that, the Perley looks after people, but they care for people, and there's a difference. You can look after somebody, but if you really care about them, then you have that much more confidence. So, as time went by, and I learned more about the Perley, and I learned more about the staff became for me like an extended family, which is so much better if you're taking a loved one and putting them in the hands of other people to be cared for. You want somebody who you feel is like family. So 100%. I mean, I know the names of the PSWs and the nurses, and they're just great people. And they do such a great job that I can literally go home at night and I don't have to worry, is Diane okay? Or if something happens, will she be okay?
And I don't want to put words in your mouth,
Right.
but I'm assuming you've gone back to husband from caregiver again.
I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because at home, when I was caring for her, I transitioned from early on to the later time, from being husband and a little bit caregiver to all caregiver,
Yeah.
and no husband.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
But now I've been able to give that care into the hands of my extended family at the Perley, because that's what I call them, and I know they care for her very well, and so I can go in and enjoy her company. She can enjoy my company, and it's just wonderful. It's great.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So much to talk about. We're going to come back because we have way more to talk about. We're going to be talking about a lot of other guests as well today. Delphine Hassel's going to join us and talk about the Perley and talk about the Perley Foundation. But when I think about all of the opportunity, Laird, for share the message today about the Perley, what would you say to somebody that maybe is making that journey for the very first time and bringing their loved one to the Perley?
Right. I would say to them, if I were standing in front of them, I would say a lot of the fears that I had when I brought Diane to the Perley were unfounded, because they're a great organization. And so, again, I would say to them that as a family member, I was concerned about giving my loved one into the hands of other people to care for. Will they be okay? And yes, I mean, I would say to them with confidence, they will be okay. They will be really well cared for. This is a great organization. They strive for excellence, and those aren't just words at the Perley. And I know that lots of organizations say they strive for excellence, but sometimes they don't always head in that direction. But the Perley is always trying to reach the better point.
Beautiful.
Okay, yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to come back, as I promised. We're coming back.
No problem.
We're going to come back with Laird Eddy here on An Hour to Give. We're talking all things Perley Health today, and you might learn something about this organization that inspires you. We know as well we've got other great guests coming up to share about their experiences with the Perley. We want you to come back on An Hour to Give. Stay with us, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on An Hour to Give. We're talking all things Perley Health today, and we're learning firsthand the impact of this organization. Laird Eddy, you've stayed with me, thank heavens, and talking about your beautiful wife, Diane. Yes. Obviously, the Perley has impacted you in so many different ways.
It has.
Talk to me a little bit about what it's like. You're going on about your day, and I know you go every single day.
I do.
Every single day.
Yeah.
So that time comes, and you put your jacket on, you're on your way to see Diane. Take me from sort of the minute you leave your house, your kind of how you're feeling about heading to the Perley, and tell me about your visit.
Okay. So 3 o'clock every day, I stop what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I get myself ready to go, because I like to be there no later than 4 o'clock.
Right.
So I get there, and the first thing I do is I go in and take off my coat and get settled in, and I go over to my lovely wife, and I remind her who I am, because she's no longer able to remember who I am at this point. But there is a memory in her that she recognizes, well, here's the guy who comes every day and likes being with me, and we have fun, So that's about where it's at with her right now. So I spend some time with her and let her acclimatize herself to me for a few moments, and then I take her in her wheelchair and I wander around the whole Perley building with her and visit the offices. And then I go by on our walks, we go by the philanthropy offices.
Yeah. I love it.
And it's usually about 4:30 or 4:45 by then. And if I still see somebody in the offices in there, I tell them, go home, go home. You know? And I bring Diane in there. I tell them, you tell them to go home, Diane. Now, Diane can't be verbal anymore, but she will sometimes, you know. Which is great. And while I'm on the subject, the folks in philanthropy do a wonderful job.
They do.
I am such a believer in the work they do there, and if you'll allow it, they do such important work there. Because they raise money for a lot of the things that happen there for the residents that aren't paid for from other sources. So a lot of the activities that are there and for the residents, and I can't tell you how important that is, because if it weren't for the activities, then you know, the residents would basically be sitting there with nothing to do.
Right.
So like that's essential, and the money they raise for that is essential. So I become a very strong proponent for people to give to the Perley, give to the Perley. Okay.
Awesome.
Because it really is important. And they provide so many other things other than activities, and they buy equipment and they look after all the needs that the residents need that aren't paid for through other fundings. Anyway, I digress.
For sure. It's important, though.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't know that, Laird.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I think maybe they don't. I think maybe a lot of people might think that the government pays for everything. The government does not pay for everything.
Yeah.
We could wish it does, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's true of most places.
So true.
So it is essential that people know that, and that they realize that when they give their donation to the Perley, it makes a huge impact on the people who are there. It changes Diane's life for the better if people give to the Perley. And so that's why I am, with my whole heart, you know, I encourage people to give so that people like my wife, and there are a lot of people there with their same illness, have the best you know, care that they can have, and they have the activities and the equipment and all the rest of it that they need to have in order to have a quality of life that they otherwise wouldn't have. So that's why I like putting in a strong pitch for those folks.
Love it.
And yeah. So
and then are you helping in terms of, like, are you helping her with her meal at night?
Yes.
Are you sort of doing those types of things as well?
So I never did get finished my
No,
rounds.
it's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
So after I take her for a little tour all around the building, and she likes doing that because we visit with other people in the building, other staff, other residents, and we have lots of friends that we stop and talk to, and that helps her to remain engaged. And then I take her back to the dining room and set her at her table. I sit down beside her and I feed her supper because she needs that assistance now. And she will let me know if she likes this or doesn't like that.
That's good.
And but I make sure that she eats well, and if I'm not there for any reason, there was a period when I had COVID. Oh my goodness, you know, when I couldn't attend. During that period, I was not at all you know, anxious about whether or not Diane was going to continue to be fed, because if I'm not there, the staff jump right in, and they're right there to I help, but they're right there too.
But it is nice to have that moment, right? Kind of a bit of an intimate moment to be able to be with her in a way, and at mealtime, which is, I know you enjoyed, you know, that time together before. So that's lovely to hear that as well. Yeah, that's wonderful. So let me ask you, Laird, if Diane was able to sort of share, I think she would be really, I mean, I've known Diane as well a very
Yes.
long time, obviously not as close as you,
Right.
but I think she'd be really relieved to know she was at the Perley, to be honest.
Yes, in fact, I can say this because I was there. Diane's mother also had Alzheimer's. And when it came time for Diane to place her mother in long-term care, her mother brought, Diane brought her mother to the Perley and said, you know, this really is the best place for you to come.
Wow.
Now, her mother didn't end up there because there wasn't room at the time and she had to go somewhere else. And Diane was really disappointed about that because Diane felt this was such a great place. And so it gives me comfort knowing that, you know, Diane in advance recognized the value of the Perley, and it would, if she could speak now, would definitely be appreciative of the fact that she was there.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you referred earlier to your Perley family.
Yes.
And, you know, not only obviously the staff and the volunteers that make up this incredible organization, but you've also become close with other families that have the same routine.
Yes.
Right? So it really has become this extended family for you. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that has its joys and its sorrows, okay? The joy part is, yes, there are other family members who come in and every evening to, you know, share the meal with their loved one. And I have become close with them and they with me because we are in the same boat, if you will.
Right.
And that's a joy that we build new friendships and we're able to share with each other, you know, our journeys. The sorrow part comes when there are moments when, you know, a family member will lose a loved one.
Yeah.
And then we not only lose that loved one because they're all part of our family, but we lose a good friend then because of course they some will continue to volunteer, but most, you know, sort of step back because this journey is a long one. It's an exhausting one, and at that point, they need a break, and I understand that. But yeah, it is wonderful to make new friends that way.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm hoping that the entire Perley Health team watches today. And what I'm hoping you can do is talk to them right now and tell them what it means. Oh, I get emotional just thinking about it. But tell them what it means to be able to actually have a good night's sleep, Laird.
Yes. Okay, let me speak then directly to the Perley staff because you know, I miss my wife. I love my wife. I more than anything would like to have my wife back as she was. I miss her desperately. Having said that, having given her over into the care of the Perley, there are, you know, there's Maya and there's Terrence and there's Joy and Karen and Sachiko and Emma and I mean all the staff who have become extended family, all the people I work with there because they have invited me onto their committees to help you know, further their pursuit of excellence and have a family perspective on their committees so they don't lose sight of that as they're making new policies. And right from the top to the very, you know, folks who are on the front lines, everybody, I can say with confidence, is striving for one thing, and that is to make the lives of their residents better and to care for them. And I can't tell you what a comfort that is when I go home at night. Even though I go home, I feel lonely. I want my wife with me there. You know, even the cat wishes Diane was back.
Of course she does. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
But I rest easy knowing that she is being looked after by people I consider to be an extended family, and I know that they're not just looking after her; they're caring for her. I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes, and that makes such a huge difference. to me in my life. Because otherwise my life would be filled with anxiety and sleepless nights, wondering what's going to happen to her. I don't wonder that there.
That's wonderful.
You know? Oh, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Laird, thank you for sharing and for being so open about your story. I mean, I have that friend view on it all the time, but I think sharing today with the Ottawa community, what the Perley Health team means to you and what it means for Diane to be there will open up a lot of eyes today. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay.
Laird Eddy joining us today, talking about Perley Health and what it means to him and his beautiful wife, Diane Morrison. We have lots coming for you, so don't worry. I'm gonna get these tears dealt with. That was emotional for us here today, but we're gonna come back and talk more about the Perley Health Centre. Talk about maybe ways that you can donate. We can talk about ways that you can get involved, maybe as a volunteer. Time, talent, and treasure is what An Hour to Give is all about. So thank you so much for spending time with us. Come on back, everybody, to An Hour to Give. I'm Sam Laprade. Thank you so much for joining us back here on An Hour to Give. I'm Sam Laprade. We're talking all things Perley Health today, and I'm so excited to welcome our next guest, Chloe Alaham. Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How would you describe yourself when it comes to the Perley? You've got lots of different titles, but how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be involved with Perley in a couple different ways. So initially it was as a donor. I opened a mail piece with the story of the life of one of the residents, and I was immediately captivated. So sent in a small donation and was invited to the Strawberry Social event for donors.
Lovely.
And that was my first time on site, and I was really impressed with the facility. It's a beautiful space. It's full of light. And everyone I met there was so welcoming, warm. So we decided to investigate further opportunities for donation, and we got a tour of the entire facility, including all of the recreation rooms, the clay studio, the wood shop. And we met some more people, and then it's kind of just evolved from there.
It's wonderful, and I know, as an advocate for seniors and in your involvement with Perley, walking around that building, I can't even call it a building, it feels like home. Yes. I remember walking down and there's like the hairdresser and the pub, and then everybody's room having this beautiful way of personalizing the space for them. I just thought I could live here, especially with all the art therapy. I was like, it really is amazing. I think for people that haven't had the pleasure and the honor to do a tour, it really opens your eyes.
It really does, and it's so impressive. And from the minute you walk in the door, for me anyway, I felt like I was being welcomed into this community of people, and it is a really special place.
Absolutely. What's your favorite part about spending time at the Perley?
Right, so I'm at Perley 4 days a week and as a volunteer, and I serve lunch 3 days, and I do cards and chess club on 2 afternoons a week. So as between those 2 activities, I can't pick a favorite. I like them both. I was a server while I was in high school and university, so it's nice to bring all those skills back and be able to use them to sort of create what we like to call a fine dining atmosphere in the resident dining rooms for lunch. So being there and serving is just a really lovely experience. I've gotten to know a lot of the residents personally, and that includes knowing their food orders and their coffee orders and how they like their dessert.
I love it.
So I try every day to bring people their coffee or tea before they have gotten to the point where they're ready to ask for it, and they're always very surprised and happy to see, oh, you remembered my order. So well, of course, we're aiming to please here.
I think what you're doing, you don't even know it, but you're busting myths about what people think the Perley would be. I think we really are today, and I love doing that because anytime I get a chance to speak about the Perley, I do, because I think people have this perception of maybe what that type of living is like, and you just busted probably about 10 myths in that. The card playing, the personalization, that extra attention. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is amazing, and it wasn't my initiative to do this. I came in and I joined a team of incredible people who are already cultivating this kind of caregiving environment where everybody is treated with respect and dignity and compassion and kindness, and everyone brings their personal caring to their work there, which is not the case in every work environment, and it's just something that I think is really special about Perley.
For sure. And I hear from a lot of volunteers, they say, I get way more out of it than I feel like I give.
Yeah.
Is that a sentence you say?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm the lucky one. It's not super common in my history of working to feel like you are actually making a tangible difference in multiple people's days immediately, right? So the gratification I get from seeing that in somebody's face, it's amazing. It's wonderful. Sometimes I feel bad, like I'm getting too much happiness out of this, which sounds silly, but it's really nice.
And what do you tell your family and your friends when they say, oh, do you want to go for lunch? And you say, sorry, I'm volunteering at the Perley.
That's exactly what I say, and I say, what about another day? Because I'm committed to doing this, and I don't want to let anybody down. I've been volunteering on site since March of 2021 when we were able to go back after the vaccines came out. So. It's just part of my routine. This is my life now. I'm very grateful that I have this opportunity.
When I think about philanthropy, we talk about this a lot on An Hour to Give, is time, talent, and treasure. And you're like ticking all three boxes. Do you see it that way? Do you see philanthropy in that way? Do you see your relationship with the Perley that way?
I do. I feel like I said very fortunate that I have the opportunity to not only be a donor but to give my time. I was very close with my grandparents. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. So I feel like this is one way to honor that service and that legacy. And of course, too, getting to know the residents on a personal level. You just learn so much, and there's so much richness there. So it's just
I did a tour once, and I met a gentleman by the name of Jack, and I have never forgotten him. Who's your Jack?
There are multiple Jacks for me. There was one lady who would come for lunch a little bit later than everybody else. So it ended up usually being just the two of us in the dining room, and I would be folding the linen at her table, and she would just tell me stories about her life. And it was lovely. We had a lot of days where she would tell me things. And she was a unique lady for her time. She did a lot of her own home renovations in the 50s and 60s. And she would give me home reno tips because I was doing some renos at the time. And she said, when you have to paint a ceiling, I would always put a paper shopping bag with holes for my eyes over my head so I didn't get paint in my hair. And I said, Madame, that is a great tip. And I went home and I did it, and there was paint all over the bag, but there was no paint in my hair.
No paint on you. No paint on you. And meeting all of these people with such rich histories, like you talk about, it certainly enriched my life to hear the stories. And I think, in many ways, it was a simpler time, and you hear about stories that you think, I kind of wish we could go back to that time. Do you feel that way sometimes?
In some ways, yes, and in other ways, no. I think, our scientific advancements and our health advancements, I wouldn't want to do without those for myself or for the residents. But I do think there's a lot of things that we could go back to, and one of those things is focusing on caring for others in our community. I think sometimes we lose sight of that in the hustle and bustle of modern life, and a little bit more focus back on caring for people wouldn't go amiss.
Oh, that's beautiful. So when you're playing games, who's winning?
Oh, not usually me. Sometimes I think they throw a game to let me win to feel better about myself.
I'm going to ask about that.
Yeah. So my main chess buddy Bob is a very, very good chess player, and I think sometimes he throws a game to make me feel a little bit better about myself. But he made in the wood shop at Perley his own chessboard. So he had these beautiful marble pieces at home that he had brought in, and he made a chess board in the wood shop specially for those marble chess pieces. And we had an inaugural game with him a few weeks ago.
How special is that?
It's amazing. Yeah.
It just, once again, busting myths about what it's like. You mentioned the clay room, and I don't even know if you noticed, but you were like, and the clay room.
Yeah.
Like, it really, like, I can tell that was something you really enjoy.
People love the clay room. The amount of artistry that comes out of that room is mind-blowing. So there's a hallway at the Perley now that's called the Perley Met Gallery, and it's been turned over to art display. And it's one hallway, and I took a resident that I go for walks with on Thursday mornings to see it. And he doesn't say much, he's a quiet guy, but his eyes just lit up when we were walking down the Met Gallery hallway. I think it meant a lot to him to see the artwork from the rest of the residents.
I can't even imagine it. I've seen some of the artwork, and it blows my mind. I cannot believe it.
It's so thoughtful and beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And just that outlet as well. And often I think in life, and I'll put up my hand and say I do this, oh, when I have time, or I'm getting to the age where it's like, well, maybe when I'm retired. I'm only 52, but you think about that, and you think there's potentially people there that have discovered these talents that they didn't know that they had all those years.
Absolutely.
How amazing is that?
It is amazing. There's a watercolor course that's relatively new, and people who have been painters but never with that medium are taking up watercolors, and they say it's completely different than acrylic or oil. So it's really, it's definitely an opportunity.
So if you were on an elevator with someone and you had to talk about the Perley until you got to the 15th floor, what do you say?
I just say that I am super fortunate to be this involved with an organization that gives so much to the residents, to the staff, to the community. And something that I've really found is that I take that sense of care and community that I feel when I'm at the Perley, and I bring it back to my life outside the Perley. So hopefully in some small way, that is kind of rippling through the rest of our life. Oh gosh, then I'm going to cry.
No, that's beautiful. and I can't help but say that you're obviously very much in love with your work at the Perley, and you obviously work with an amazing team. Yes. So talk to me, we only have about 30 seconds, but just talk to me a little about the team you work with.
Well, the staff that are on the units that I work on have been nothing but incredible. They've been so welcoming. They've showed me the ropes. They've supported me on top of supporting all the residents that they care for. And like I said, they just, they really, really impress me on a daily basis with how much of themselves they bring to their work. It is really a caring profession, and they embody that every day. They are some of the hardest working people I've ever seen, and I just think, you know, hats off to them for doing what they do on such a grand scale.
And hats off to you. Honestly, it's amazing, and I know how much you get out of it. I can tell. You know, it's just part of your DNA now. I just feel like that's when you describe it, it feels that way to me.
It is, and like I keep saying, I sound like a broken record, but I just feel very lucky that I have this opportunity to be present in this way. So.
And I feel lucky to have this opportunity with you. Thank you so much, Chloe.
Thank you.
Chloe Alaham spending time with us today on An Hour to Give. More to talk about when it comes to the Perley. Stay with us here. I'm Sam Laprade. And we're back on An Hour to Give, and I get to interview one of my greatest friends. My friend Delphine Hasley's joining us today from the Perley Foundation. Hello, Delphine.
Hi, Sam.
Okay, Delphine, we have just spent time with Laird Eddie and Chloe Alaham, and I just want to run to the Perley right now and just give everybody a big hug there. Is that how you feel at the foundation every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky.
It is. It's amazing.
This is, and you know, those are the people I'm working with every day, and everyone is like that. So staff is the same. There is just this willingness, like we're a big family. I think it comes down to that, right?
That word has been used a lot today, family. And it does feel like a family. You've got obviously incredible staff, talented staff, dedicating their careers, volunteers that are just so incredibly dedicated as well to making sure that everyone's cared for. And you've got as well really this innovative look at what you're trying to do there. This isn't about the same old. You're trying to get better every year. Talk to me a little bit about how important it is to be innovative.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And we always want to be better, and not just for us, but really to elevate care for seniors everywhere. So a few years back, we established a new center of excellence in frailty informed care. And really, frailty, it's a medical condition. It's really when your resilience just is not there anymore. And we can provide better care for people who are living with frailty. And we think we're doing pretty good. We hear from people we're doing pretty good. But now we have research, studied those questions, and really demonstrate what are we doing good, where we could improve. And we have a great research team led by Dr. Hani Robitaille, who's really looking at how to do better. But that's just one part of the story. You know, like, she's a researcher. Our goal is to publish a paper in some ways, you know, go to conferences and do all that. And she's almost done for our job. And now we have a knowledge translation team who takes that research. So knowledge translation, what it means is the team is taking all the data and all the good finding from the study, packaging it in a way for the people who are giving the care at the bedside can really improve. And it's not just for the Perley, not for the 600 seniors who are living here. It's for everyone. We are sharing it.
And so what I love about this is that, you know, sometimes people think, oh, research, it sits on a shelf somewhere. No, not at the Perley.
No, not at all. And that's why we are quite unique in that way. So the research question will come from family members, will come from our staff, from our volunteers. We're saying, we're doing this. I feel we should do better. The researcher comes, and right away the knowledge translation team is right there with them. And it's like, is it really a question we should look at? Is there other homes that are looking for that? And what kind of information they will need to improve, right? And the staff are super busy everywhere. They don't have time to sit down and go through papers, and they need to receive the information for them to be able to implement right away.
So we've given lots of different areas where people can help. We talked a little bit earlier about defining philanthropy as time, talent, and treasure, so someone can volunteer. I know you've got a wonderful board of directors as well. They give their talents, people working frontline alongside your staff. And then, of course, donations. We talk a lot about fundraising. So talk to me a little bit about if somebody's listening right now and we've inspired them today, what do you want them to do?
Go to the website, and very easy, perleyhealthfoundation.ca, and just make a donation there. You know, that's the easiest way. But then don't be afraid. Pick up the phone, and you will get in touch with, it's only three people at the foundation, so maybe me. But really, we will talk to you. You know, there is different ways to donate as well. There is a one-time gift, and that's fine. And or you could be like Laird, who's a generous monthly donor. Or you can, there is different ways to donate, and we can have a conversation. I will want to hear from the donor what kind of impact you want to have, and we can engineer back to that.
And I love, we talked earlier about a lot of those donor dollars go into the extras that really allow someone to live their full quality of life, all of the programs that you have there. I've said to you before, I'll live here. You know, it's amazing, everything that you offer. And just, you think about someone that's lived their whole life, and maybe they're 80 years old, and they're walking into a clay studio, and they've never ever had an opportunity to do that before. And just all, I mean, I'm picking on the clay studio because we love it so much, but there's so many different programs. Talk to me a little bit about that impact that donors make, and how they sort of connect the dots about they're actually changing someone's life.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so we receive funding from the government, and we're very grateful for it, but it's to provide adequate care. You know, like, or standard of care that will be good enough. Not really. if you want to live life to the fullest, you know. And I think there is no surprise. Everyone who comes to the Perley knows that's their last home, but they still have like many days to live to the fullest, to know what's meaningful for them. And that's where the gap is in funding. So our donors are supporting this program where, so the art program, we talked a lot about it, but also it could be some simple things like in the summer we have a lot of youth volunteer who come. So we are funding that program, so we have a coordinator that coordinates about 70 youth.
Wow.
And to see that different, you know, interaction is so lovely. But then we have an innovative program where now we have like babies, really, who comes and they have a drop-in program where you have babies and toddlers interacting with seniors, and we want to grow even that. And it's those kind of different way to providing care, providing meaningful interaction. It's an experience, you know, like I think we hear all the time, oh, the experience is more. But it is when it's your life in and out. You do not want to be, like Laird was talking, like the fear will be they have nothing to do, they stay in their room. When, you know, you talk about the tour always, and we continue to do that, and I love doing those tours.
I know you do.
But it's not easy to plan because often people are not in their room.
Right. They're busy living life at the Perley, which is what you want.
Yes.
Which is what you want. Do you remember the day you introduced me to Jack?
Yes.
Oh, Delphine, I think about him all the time. I could have spent, well, you know, I think you've had to say to me, we have to go now. Like, I just wanted to spend like the day with him. The knowledge, the love of the Perley. I mean, he just went on and on about his life, and I think it's about, as much as you serve hundreds of people, it's about each person.
It's so nice to hear you recognize that, because that's what we're really trying to do, you know. And we call it person-centered, or the See Me program, where the individual is, you know, I'm like, okay, it's a big boardroom, and at the head of the table, it's really our resident and the family. Yeah. And they are the one who are making the decision with their team of experts, which is our care team. And it is what matters to you. What do you want, right? Because you and I are not, we like a lot of things the same, but probably there are things that I prefer this way, you prefer that way, and that could make the whole day different. You know, when Chloe is saying, I know what he wants in his tea, and she likes coffee only. So small. Makes such a big difference, and that's because our philosophy is we're providing care to one person at a time, 600 times, but one person at a time.
Wow. So this is what gets you out of bed every day?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you do anything else?
Probably not.
No. I know how much you love it. When I think about the Perley now, I think about you and I think about your team, and you mentioned a small team. And I don't know how you do it, because it seems like you do the work of about 10, the three of you. You work really, really hard.
We do. But, you know, we're lucky in some ways. So the Perley, it's like a big village. And in the middle of the village, it's my office.
Yeah, that's true.
And every day I see, like Laird, literally every day comes to my office and tells me it's time to go home now. And just a few weeks ago he came with Diane and it's like, tell her to go home. And I was actually putting my shoes on. I was on my way and I'm like, I'm going. And Diane started laughing, you know, and it was like saying go, and it was such a small moment after long days, because yes, they are long days. And I'm like, it's all worth it.
For sure. And you know, obviously you've got donors that have been loyal over many, many years. But talk to me about a brand new donor that maybe says to you, I had no idea, and maybe it's my grandma that's there or my mom that's there, and you get to say, to them, yeah, we've been around, this is what we're doing, and it really bringing them into that family.
Yeah, and so someone will have their loved one there, they will get it right away. And we have so many very loyal donors who have been with us for the longest time, because at one point we care for their loved ones, they get it. Where I'm working even extra hard in some ways, it's the many people who do not know that we have this amazing organization. And what we are doing is not just for people who live in the Perley, right? Now we are really looking forward to taking that knowledge elsewhere and making sure that our seniors and our veterans, no matter where they live, can live life to the fullest. And we cannot do it without the support of our community. This is it. Like, if we want status quo as a society, then my job is done. But I don't think anyone wants it, right? Because we're coming next. Our moms are coming next.
Can I tell you how close I am to coming next? Yeah, we do start thinking about that, though, right? I think about my mom. My mom's 82. She's going to be really mad I said that on TV. But she's 82 and she's lovely. But I think to myself, like, I would feel 100% comfortable with my mom at the Perley. And that is because I've been there. And so if somebody does want a tour, can they reach out to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
I would be more than happy.
Yeah, because it is pretty special.
It is.
It is.
And it's difficult to explain unless you see it. And there are things that you can't, you know, as you're walking, everyone is smiling, the staff are happy to be there, the family, you know, all those things. There is no smells, there is no, those kind of things I cannot put on a brochure. I need you to come and see it for yourself.
Wow, beautifully said. Delphine, thank you so much for spending time with us, and thanks for this opportunity to share with everybody about the Perley, because I want to shout it from the mountaintops, and now we did.
Thank
you.
you.
Today. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Delphine Hasley joining us today, of course, from the Perley Health Foundation. Reach out to her, reach out to the whole team there. There's only 3 of them, but they're a mighty small team if you want to make a donation to them. Listen, it's been my honor to spend time with all of our guests today. Laird joining us today, of course, Chloe and Delphine sharing about the Perley. This show is all about community, philanthropy, and of course the treasure that comes out of volunteering. And I'm hoping today we've inspired you. And whether you want to reach out and offer your time or reach out and offer your treasure, I know that they will appreciate it very much. I'm Sam Laprade, and I'm so happy to join you on An Hour to Give.